The controversial life of Lester Maddox, 10 scandalous and shocking facts. Lester Maddox, a polarizing figure in American politics, rose to prominence as an ardent segregationist and eventually became the governor of Georgia from 1967 to 1971. Maddox's outspoken views and dramatic public actions made him a lightning rod for controversy throughout his career. Here are 10 of the most scandalous, shocking, and intriguing facts about his life, exploring his background, political stances, and the enduring legacy of his polarizing actions. Fact number 1. A humble beginning and a rocky path to success. Lester Maddox was born on September 30, 1915, in Atlanta, Georgia, into a struggling working-class family. His early life was marked by the difficulties of the Great Depression, during which his family faced significant economic hardship. To support them, Maddox dropped out of high school and took on a variety of jobs, including working as a machinist and a steelworker. His resilience and determination led him to open the Pickrick cafeteria in 1947, a modest but popular restaurant located near the Georgia Tech campus. Maddox married Hattie Virginia Cox in 1936, and the couple had 4 children: Virginia, Lester Jr., Linda, and Larry. His upbringing and early experiences instilled in him a drive to achieve the American dream, despite the barriers. This aspiration would eventually propel him into politics, where he became known not only for his business success but also for his staunch defense of segregation. His belief in preserving traditional Southern values shaped much of his political career, and his family's support played a crucial role in his public life. Number 2. The infamous Pickrick Cafeteria Incident. The Pickrick Cafeteria became infamous on July 3, 1964, when Maddox wielded a pistol to prevent 3 black activists from entering his restaurant. Maddox and a group of supporters armed themselves with axe handles, which they brandished as a threat to deter integrationists. These axe handles, later marketed as Pickrick drumsticks, became a symbol of Maddox's defiance against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which mandated the desegregation of public accommodations. Maddox claimed his actions were justified, arguing that as a private business owner, he had the right to refuse service based on his discretion. The incident drew national attention and turned Maddox into a polarizing figure, viewed by some as a defender of states' rights and by others as an emblem of racism. The subsequent legal battles led him to close the Pickrick cafeteria rather than comply with integration orders, solidifying his status as a segregationist icon in the South. Number 3. Elected governor amid racial tensions. Maddox's political career took a dramatic turn in 1966 when he ran for governor of Georgia. The election was marked by racial tensions, and no candidate won a majority, resulting in the state legislature deciding the outcome. With the legislature's support, Maddox emerged victorious as a compromise candidate, defeating the more moderate Republican Howard "Bo" Callaway. His victory was widely seen as a backlash against the civil rights movement, with segregationists rallying behind him as a defender of Southern heritage. Maddox's inauguration was notable for his symbolic gesture of riding a bicycle backward, which he explained as moving forward while looking to the past, reflecting his desire to preserve traditional values despite societal changes. His governorship highlighted the deep racial divisions in Georgia and the broader South, as he continued to resist integration measures, promoting policies aligned with the era's segregationist sentiment. Number 4. Bizarre public stunts and gimmicks. Lester Maddox's flair for unconventional public behavior often attracted attention. His penchant for bizarre stunts included riding a bicycle backward during his inauguration and distributing autographed axe handles as souvenirs to supporters, symbolizing his resistance to federal desegregation mandates. These theatrics were more than mere antics; they served as potent symbols of his political message and resonated with his base. Maddox's populist style and eccentric actions made him a folk hero to some and a symbol of entrenched bigotry to others. He used these stunts strategically, often employing humor to deflect criticism and framing himself as a simple man fighting against what he saw as federal overreach into states' rights. His tactics embodied his combative style and polarized public opinion, ensuring his visibility in Georgia's political landscape. Number 5. Resisting integration and alleged ties to extremist groups. Lester Maddox was not just a supporter of segregation, he actively employed racist rhetoric in his speeches. As governor of Georgia, he pursued policies that upheld racial separation, appointing segregationists to key positions and promoting legislation to maintain segregated schools. His actions often led to protests and legal challenges, as they directly conflicted with federal civil rights laws. While Maddox did not officially participate in organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, he attended rallies where his supporters included white supremacists. These associations sparked rumors about his connections to extremist groups, which he allegedly used to bolster his political base. Maddox justified his stance by claiming to defend traditional Southern values and state sovereignty, further solidifying his reputation as one of the most fervent opponents of civil rights in the United States. Number 6. Maddox's shift to populism. As his governorship progressed, Maddox adopted a populist approach, emphasizing his commitment to the little man and championing policies aimed at helping lower-income Georgians. Despite his segregationist reputation, he advocated for prison reform, increased education funding, and programs to benefit the economically disadvantaged. His shift toward populism bewildered many political observers, as it seemed at odds with his earlier hardline stance on race. Maddox's ability to blend populist policies with his traditional segregationist views created a complex political persona that resonated with certain segments of the electorate. While some saw him as evolving, others argued that his populism was merely a strategy to broaden his appeal without genuinely abandoning his segregationist roots. Number 7. Running for vice president with George Wallace. In 1968, Lester Maddox considered a presidential run but eventually joined George Wallace, a fellow segregationist, on the American Independent Party ticket in 1976 as the vice presidential nominee. Wallace's party sought to attract disaffected white voters, particularly in the South, who felt alienated by the Democratic Party's support for civil rights. The Maddox-Wallace campaign centered on opposition to federal desegregation policies and advocacy for states' rights, appealing to those who resisted the changing racial dynamics of the time. While the ticket failed to gain significant traction, their campaign underscored the persistence of segregationist sentiment in American politics during the late 1960s and 1970s. Number 8. An unexpected comedy career. After his term as governor ended, Maddox pursued an unlikely career in comedy. He performed in various venues and made frequent appearances on television shows, including The Dick Cavett Show, where his polarizing views often sparked controversy. Maddox's comedic routines blended political commentary with humor, allowing him to maintain a public platform and reach audiences in a new way. His foray into comedy was seen as an unconventional move for a former governor but demonstrated his adaptability and desire to remain relevant. Despite his controversial past, Maddox found a niche in using satire to critique political issues, a reflection of his ability to continually reinvent himself. Number 9. A late-in-life change of heart? In his later years, Maddox attempted to soften his image, often asserting that he had never been a racist and pointing to instances where he hired black employees at his restaurant. While these gestures were intended to demonstrate a change in attitude, many critics viewed them as superficial. Maddox sometimes expressed regret over the confrontational nature of his earlier segregationist actions, but he never fully disavowed his opposition to the civil rights movement. His ambivalence left many questioning the sincerity of his supposed transformation, and his legacy remained contentious, with his later actions doing little to erase his earlier infamy. Number 10. Death and controversial legacy. Lester Maddox died on June 25, 2003, at the age of 87, leaving behind a divisive legacy. His actions during the civil rights era, particularly his defiance of desegregation laws, remained deeply controversial. Supporters lauded him as a defender of states' rights and Southern traditions, while detractors condemned him as a symbol of racial intolerance and resistance to progress. Even after his death, Maddox's life and career continued to evoke strong emotions, embodying the complexities and contradictions of a turbulent period in American history. His story serves as a reminder of the enduring struggles over civil rights and the legacy of segregation in the United States.